Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there, so please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money, so check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Niall.
And I'm Kyle. What the fuck is up, Niall? Huge news on my end this week.
What do you have for me?
I've kind of been keeping this on the down low, but I figured I'd announce it here to you and the listeners at home. For the last couple weeks, started seeing a hypnotherapist.
Oh, cool. How's that going?
It's going pretty well. I don't remember a lot to do with the sessions, to be honest, because I guess they're really trying to like dig deep in here. I have noticed though that I've started sort of slowly transforming into Mark Maron. I've every day I look in the mirror.
Yeah, and you get a little bit more Marin.
There's a little more Marin there.
Yeah.
I feel, hey, and you know what? I actually thought of a fun word for the process. I call it marinating. I've been kind of marinating.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this has anything to do with the hypnotherapy, to be completely honest. But like, you know, they put me in this deep regressive state where I'm, you know, speaking from my unconscious. But I did start to notice this around the same time that I started going to hypnotherapy. And I was just going because I was like, you know, I don't want to be present. I don't want to be awake for the therapy session. Just knock me out. Do what you got to do to fix my brain. And then, you know, snap and I wake up, right? You know, that's easier than talking it through, you know?
Yeah, I've got a quick question for you, just for to fill in some gaps here.
Yeah.
Is your hypnotherapist, do you do this hypnotherapy inside of a garage?
That's funny you should say that. Yes, we do. I actually, and the thing is, like, I've been looking around online ever since I started feeling like I look a lot more like Mark Maron. And actually, we kind of discussed some of this on a bonus show on the Patreon. So
yeah, this is a joke so nice you pulled it, you readapted it for the main feed.
This is, if you want the full lore drop, that's there, but
I think this should be your new bit. Every week you should come up with a new way that you're being turned into Mark Maron.
Right. Well, I didn't come up with it, okay? I'm beginning to suspect that the hypnotherapist did. And as I understand it, this seems to be... First of all, I didn't know I was a candidate for this. Before I explain what I think this might be, I didn't know that this was a possibility, that they like... Yes, I did start receiving ads in my mail for hypnotherapy before I went, but like you know, that was still my own choice, right?
Sure.
That was still me choosing. Like, that sounds like a good idea. I'm already familiar with it from doing this show for so long. You know, I know about that stuff. I uncovered some cool UFO stuff in my memory too.
Yeah.
But apparently that they do need somebody to take over the Mark Maron position.
Yeah, is it kind of like a Santa Claus situation with an E, where you accidentally knocked him off a roof and killed him, and so you have to take over now?
Let's not accuse me of doing anything to Mark Maron. Maron is willfully stepping down and allowing the marination process to begin, apparently.
Allegedly.
Is my understanding. Well, yeah. Allegedly. But no, I don't think he's dead yet. I think they're just, planning for that, for when they like need a full replacement.
Yeah. So one other question.
So, yeah.
You said you didn't know you were a candidate for this position. Did you know? Does that mean there are other people? And if so, when the final one is fully chosen, is there going to be some white smoke coming out of the chimney of the garage?
Yes. I have a feeling... Oh, okay. I shouldn't say that with such confidence. My assumption is yes. Okay. And again, I haven't directly connected this to the hypnotherapy thing. I didn't look you in the eyes and tell you, hey, a hypnotherapist is grooming me to become the second Mark Maron. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell you that. This is what I'm sort of inferring from my experiences and what I've been able to dredge up from these suppressed memories. So, fair. You know, I don't know if they're going to like make me leave this show to go do What the Fuck what is that show called? What the Fuck with Mark Maron?
You know, I think it's just colloquial. It's just really the name is actually just WTF. You know,
WTF. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But if I have to leave the show, you know, it is what it is. I'll be moving on to a bigger, more successful show than I'm doing now.
Yeah, you'll go and interview celebrities, and that'll be really nice. Although he did a lot of the big ones, so like you're gonna be, I guess he did do like Gallagher, so it's not like he only did like the biggest celebrities, but like, you know, he's already done Obama, and I know that's one you really care about.
I think I'm sure that the lineup that they're grooming me to become the Mark Maron for is going to be even crazier than that.
Has Timothée Chalamet been on WTF? Maybe we can get him.
Know. We could get Chalamet. We could get Zendaya. You can get like
Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter would be good. Mitski, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Dax Shepard.
I'm sure Dax Shepard has done it because Dax Shepard has his own podcast.
Oh, okay.
And like he probably went on there to promote.
Alan Tudyk.
Sure.
So
why not Alan?
Anyways, hey, good point. Hey, Niall, do you want to hear an email from a listener?
I would love that. I'm a little peckish.
Okay. This is a long-time listener, 49th time emailer.
Is that true?
Well, I don't know. I think that's an approximation, maybe. But this is consummate It Gets Weird listener and emailer Weird John.
Oh, hey,
we haven't
Weird
heard
John.
from in a minute. What's up, Weird John? Weird John says, I've taken a long email hiatus because it seems like you've been getting plenty of emails to feast on, and I didn't want you getting a collective tummy ache. That's much appreciated. But it is nice to hear from you. However, I have a recent obsession that I want to share to you and other listeners. Have you ever heard of the mall world? The mall world is a concept that I've seen gain a little traction online regarding the idea of a shared dream space. Originally, it was called the mall world because people were realizing that they were having dreams that felt significant or just off from their usual dreams taking place in a mall.
Huh. Okay.
To be clear, the dreams don't have to take place in a mall, but they usually feel more vivid or different than usual dreams. They may feel significant or happen to take place in a host of similar locations as others have dreamed of. A few include a mall, a dirty, odd, or labyrinthian bathroom, a water park or an amusement park, childhood homes or schools, often having secret passageways leading to hidden areas, crazy highways or roads that go high into the sky, a theater that has an ominous feeling inside, elevators that go crazy fast and never to the floors you want. They go on to say, I've personally experienced some of these, and the subreddit that I found on the topic blew my mind with how similar some of these dreams and locations were. I'm not sure it's some Jungian archetypes if interacting with the topic creates a feedback loop where you're more likely to have those kinds of dreams, or if there really is some unconsciously accessible dream space. I lean toward the first two, but it's fascinating nonetheless. I would love to hear from you and others who may have experienced the mall world. Great show as always, Weird John. Huh.
Hey, Weird John. That's cool.
This is new to me.
Yeah, and have not heard of this.
So, I have a Discord group with some friends where we actually have been logging our dreams. We just made a dedicated channel for people to post their dreams. I can't think of anything necessarily that fits what you're describing, Weird John. But if I'm recalling like my most prominent dreams, the ones that match the most is childhood homes and schools. I have had a lot of memorable dreams about that, but I can't remember ever dreaming about a mall necessarily.
I mean,
or any of the other stuff.
I had a dream that's always kind of stuck with me. Is I had like a full blown slasher movie dream in my
You've
my middle
told
school.
me about that. Yeah.
And it was especially vivid. It felt like it honestly had like camera angles and shit. My dreams aren't always like that, but it was really strange. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to look at the list of things and see, like, because I've had stuff in childhood homes. I've had stuff in weird bathrooms. But like I don't remember them being labyrinthian. I just remember them being like I didn't know how the knobs worked. You know?
I've had really, really surreal dreams. I remember one in particular that haunts me to this day. It wasn't that it was a labyrinthine room at my house. It was It was the room that I lived in when I was a teenager in my parents' basement. And there were just weird little things that were wrong. Like I remember there was a at the top of the wall, like just beneath the ceiling, there was like a mail slot in the wall, and somebody's like fingers were poking through it, and they were like looking through the mail slot, and that obviously did not exist in that room. I've had weird, and you know what? I'm now remembering the one mall dream I can remember off the top of my head that was vivid enough to stick with me my entire life was a dream where I was sitting across from my sister in a mall like cafeteria, like, but it was very like 90s. It felt very like, pastel colors and like think old like 1999 Taco Bell colors, actually. But the idea of a dream space, I mean, I also would lean more into the like people have discussions about dreams that are like recurring spaces in people's lives that are just, it's commonalities between people to have like a childhood home or go to a mall or whatever. So I definitely lean towards that, but I like the idea of a dream space, where we, all collectively draw imagery from this same astral world. That's a fun idea. It's fun to think about.
I've always kind of enjoyed the concept of a collective unconscious, but I'm not fully certain I believe in it. But it's in media, it's a interesting thing to play with, and I like Alan Moore and Grant Morrison both are kind of into this. Grant Morrison especially is into this kind of like stories exist in this alternate universe that we can all realize and tap into, this like alternate collective reality that you can enter by doing drugs or dreaming. So I like that stuff. That stuff fascinates me. But I kind of fall down the same way you do.
Yeah, I don't know whether I believe in a collective unconscious either, but I do believe, the best I can say is that we are all partaking in the same thing, which is consciousness. We all get to partake in that, and so that probably means something interesting.
And I think that there is a sort of like in terms of this kind of stuff, you can look at it as the kind of we talk about, you absorb things through cultural osmosis, like your brain remembers more things than you do, and so you might have heard of some of these things or seen some of these things that stuck with you, and kind of just by living in the world where these things exist, you come across traces of them, and that leaves an imprint on your brain, and then that is something that your brain, when randomly firing while you're asleep, appears with the whole thing about, you're in a mall and something's happening or whatever. Like, I think that there may not be an actual collective unconscious, but I think that there's some sort of shared cultural impact that you get by living in a world where these ideas get bandied around,
Yeah, all knowledge is recollection, just some of it is not conscious recollection, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, hey, I mean, I would love to explore this.
I didn't expect to go that deep on that, but
no, but it's cool. I appreciate the email, and it's probably, I would be curious to go look into see what writing's been done about this particular topic, because I don't know this particular subreddit, but I would check it out.
And I love just new weird shit like that coming to be, because like I don't know, maybe this is a thing that's been around since the 90s and there's just a subreddit now, but like we you know, I think over reliance on creepypasta has kind of ruined like backstage or what do they call the back rooms?
Yeah.
Like we've over commodified weirdness, and people should just find more like niche shit that they're pushing ideas out there. You know, like I think it's fun.
Yeah. Now, all that being said, is it possible that Mark Maron as an entity is just something that we have collectively, you know, unconsciously created, sort of like a tulpa, and you know, but its energy in our realm is finite, and the mantle has to be passed down? Is that possible? I think that's possible.
It's also possible that he was the original Andrew WK, and when he stopped being Andrew WK, he retired to be Mark Maron.
Oh my
and now
God.
He's, you know, it's this kind of chain reaction.
There is some weird ass Andrew WK shit that I've almost considered doing an episode on, because
I have like a list of quote unquote rock occulty conspiracy type things that I want to do an episode on at some point, but it's kind of hard to wrangle into a thing. So maybe we'll take a pass at that stuff at some point and do kind of. I like doing media conspiracies and occult kind of stuff. Like I think that stuff's fun to do sometimes.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I feel like the last time I covered something like that, it was that weird one where people were saying that when David Bowie died, his like spirit was reformed within Kanye West. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
It doesn't really make, it's pretty absurd, but I feel like that's maybe, and I mean, that's years ago at this point. I haven't done no, I did Paul McCartney is dead conspiracy.
Yep.
And also covered that dude who said that Stephen King shot John Lennon.
The guy that drives the van around that has stickers about
I've done a couple
Stephen King shooting.
Yeah. Anyways, that stuff, I do like the weird music industry conspiracy stuff every once in a while. So anyways.
All right, but that's not what we're talking about this week. This week I found a cryptid that I wanted to talk about. And we're staying in the United States. My impulse these days is to look overseas for cryptids, because we've kind of mined a lot of the American ones, but this one has a decent number of sightings and lore and everything about it, and it's in the good old US of A.
Okay.
So we're gonna take a trip down to Arizona.
Arizona.
Yeah, does that bring to mind anything?
I'm thinking, is this the skeleton that wanders the desert?
No.
Oh, have you heard of that?
I've run across that, but I haven't found enough to do an episode on it before. But we should.
I really like that one. I can't remember if that was in Arizona or not, but I thought maybe it was.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
No, today we're going to talk about the Mogollon Monster. Which is a kind of regional Bigfoot variation on the Mogollon Rim in Arizona, which is a mountain range. And a lot of this stuff is pulled, luckily, there's a really good article that I found by Jeff O'Connor on connectparanormal.net that laid out a lot of this stuff along with a couple other websites. But like, it's the Mogollon Monster. I like. Honestly, here's the thing that I found. Sometimes I'm finding weird reasons to do cryptids, and in this case, I found that there's literally like a mountain running course yearly thing named after this thing called that's the Mogollon Monster 100, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end. But I find
like people run on a path.
on like the mountain rim. Like it's supposed to be like a really fucking challenging thing. So I ended up going down like a bit of a rabbit hole looking at like, you know, it's at like elevation, you know, where they're running, and that just seems awful to me. I don't know why anyone would want to do that to themselves.
No.
But I also figured it's been a minute since we checked in with a regional Bigfoot variant, and I think that, you know, there's still ones to cover. So
how many more could there possibly be?
You'd be surprised. There's more Nessie variations that we haven't covered, I think, because we haven't done as many episodes on aquatic cryptids. But like,
yeah,
there's still Bigfoots and Yetis and shit.
There's definitely still more Bigfoots, but I feel like it's getting harder for me to find. I mean, I guess you could go state by state, because basically every state just about has their own variant of Bigfoot, or at least has had sightings specific to that state. But I mean, I feel like we've covered at least the very major Bigfoot types around the United States, at least.
Yeah, but like here's a fun thing about this one that I kind of drew me in as well, which is maybe a silly thing, but this one is also notable in the way that the Florida Bigfoot that I always forget the name of, in that it stinks. It supposedly stinks to fucking high heaven.
The skunk ape?
Yeah, the skunk ape. This but it's in Arizona on top of a mountain where it's like totally dry.
So it's somehow like a dry stink.
So somehow this we have you can have a stinky Bigfoot in the marshlands of Florida or on top of a fucking mountain in Arizona, and they're still gonna like, this one supposedly smells like rotting flesh, I guess, is like the thing that people talk about. So
Jesus.
But yeah, we'll talk about that. But supposedly, yeah, this is another stinky boy. So you know, add this to your Rolodex of stinky fucking cryptids, which is,
I'm collecting stink apes.
I mean, like, you know how they'll occasionally release like, you know, Jones sodas that like taste like Thanksgiving, or like, you know, totally gimmicky things. I think some of those like more adventurous perfume brands, you know, like Imaginary Authors and shit, should just try to like do fucking stank ass cryptids in just like a limited batch. People would go for it.
There are some really funny screenshots of like weird experimental perfumes going around like a couple months back, maybe.
Yeah.
And fuck, some of those were so funny. Just people like reviewing and being like, this made my house smell like a fucking like dead fish's asshole. Like, why did you release this? And it's like, it's just this fancy bottle with like a French name, you know? It's like,
yeah.
I do wonder what those are all about, because that's all existing in a world that I have no context for.
I went down a rabbit hole one day on TikTok with someone who was into fragrances, and as far as I can tell, no, it was actually a wrestler that has like a fragrance based TikTok account that occasionally references their wrestling career. Anyway, shouts out Shay McCoy. And it seems like the thing is almost like, you know how, as you get into horror movies, you kind of like get desensitized to the basic stuff, and you start like getting into more and more extreme versions of the thing.
Sure.
Or, you know, with if you get into whiskey, you start trying to get into like the 20-year aged shit, because it's more bold, there's more nuance, there's all these things that you can't get in other things. And I think there's a bit of that, like, there are people that just want to seek out extremity, and fragrance is no different. And so like they can find these weird nuances in like a perfume that is all about like smelling like blood, and it's appealing to them, and there's like something interesting about it to them. So it's a weird thing that I find interesting.
It's not for me. I'm very sensitive to smells. Certain smells will make me just straight up gag. So, you know, but hey, I guess more power to you. But Niall, if you find that interesting, definitely check out Jeremy Fragrance. I don't think I've ever seen anybody online more passionate about fragrances than him. So
This sounds like a bit that I'm gonna maybe find funny. We'll see. The way that you're saying fragrance is very much sounds
fragrance?
Like...
Is it? Yeah. Wait, was I pronouncing it wrong?
Oh, yeah, I believe it's fragrance.
Fragrance? Did I say fragrance? Fragrance? Well, whatever. It's integral.
Yeah.
It is. It's interchangeable.
Okay, so that wasn't part of the bit.
No, okay. I didn't know. That was. I just was.
I thought it was
probably
a reference
saying
to,
it wrong.
I thought this guy is like a very funny anti-comedy comedian that had a bit where he just always pronounces it wrong.
Not everything I do is about anti-comedians doing things intentionally incorrectly. That's just a small handful of the things that I'm into, Niall.
Yeah. All right.
No, this is a legit guy who's very passionate about perfumes and stuff, and I think he makes very interesting content. That's that. Jeremy Fragrance, however you pronounce it, tomato.
Yeah,
check him out. He's interesting. He's interesting.
Okay. So, the Mogollon Rim is a region in Arizona. I believe it's like on the northern side of Arizona. There's like if you look on topographical maps, you'll see like a mountain ridge there, and that's what it is. It's a pretty long stretch, and this is the main area this cryptid has been seen. This is like, you probably could find here. This is one of those things that, like you were talking about, you could go state by state, because there are like the smell and the fact that its eyes glow red. We're going to talk about that in a second, but like there are these differentiating factors that would change it from, a cryptid sighting even in southern Arizona or in New Mexico or whatever. But depending on how specific you want to go, all of these things could be the same thing.
Yeah.
There's people like, are all of the sightings that we're going to talk about today the Mogollon Monster because they exist in the same area, or are a bunch of people we're going too granular and a bunch of people are looking at Bigfoot-esque creatures that are whatever, and people are just happening to lump them together because they're in the same geographical region, And yeah.
No, I follow what you're saying, and I was going to say it is 1 for 1, or 2 for 2, I should say, on having the same details as the actual skunk ape, who also had glowing red eyes. It's just a different location.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you this much. So, like, the skunk ape, which I think, if I remember correctly, sightings of that thing are in Florida, but also pretty much the same idea in the Carolinas, I'm pretty sure. If I'm remembering correctly, and maybe even like Louisiana. But when you tell me Arizona Bigfoot, first of all, I have very limited experience of Arizona. I was in Tucson for 2 weeks one time a couple years ago when they were actually breaking record temperatures, and it was horrifying. And I also got to experience my first dust storm during that 2-week period.
Oh, okay.
And so my mind just immediately pictured a Bigfoot with like sort of matted red fur who like just covers himself with dust at night to like hunker down for the cold evening. That's where my mind goes, which doesn't, to me, actually, as I understand it, should maybe suppress a bit of the smell. So I'm curious where the smell thing comes from, but that's where my mind went. But it sounds like we may not be going that direction. It doesn't sound very similar to what I imagined.
Not really dusty, but here's okay. So here is the generally reported description. The creature is reported to be between 7 and 10 feet tall and possess a strong muscular build. It also has a very foul stench, which has been described as dead fish, a skunk with bad body odor, or decaying peat moss. It has a hairless face, but is like the face is like, there are places that describe it as a distinctive elongated face, so I imagine it kind of like a long, tall face, Mm-hmm. And then a thick coat of either dark reddish brown hair or just dark brown. Either it has a reddish hue or fully brown. It has a wide inhuman stride and leaves footprints measuring approximately 22 inches in length. and it also has glowing eyes. I mentioned that. Its behavior pattern suggests that it's nocturnal and territorial. It has a kind of howl that will go all through the woods and the mountains whenever it's particularly around dusk. And they claim, look, the sightings kind of back this up, but not more than or less than a lot of other Bigfoot people. But they say specifically here that it has very violent territorial displays. So if you come into its territory, it's going to like bust up trees and chuck rocks,
throw rocks at you.
Yeah, it's gonna engage in that kind of Bigfoot behavior. But the nice thing about this one is that specifically they say that the Mogollon Monster, unlike a lot of other cryptids, straight up just shows overt hostility towards humans. And if it like humans in its area, it will just come after you. Now, it's interesting that that's such a specific thing for this cryptid, but I have yet to find any place where it has a body count. So it's very hostile towards you, but I haven't found a lot of like injuries or any sort of deaths related to it that I believe I found. So I don't know exactly how it's hostile, but maybe not the most dangerous.
Interesting. You know, a lot of the times with a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch, I feel like I feel like a lot of the time there is this like the level of hostility or pleasantness of being in the presence of that type of Bigfoot is often in the eye of the beholder, where like the person who is talking about the story kind of dictates, you know, how friendly it is to humans, right? Because like we've explored stories where people are just like, oh yeah, Bigfoot are like a very peaceful, curious, kind animal or some sort of offshoot or potential of humanity or whatever. And then then there's other people who will just be like, oh no, this thing's a monster. I'm curious if there's been, I don't know if there's a term for this, like an actual scientific biology term for this, but you know how, like, okay, so I've seen people say online that, like, oh, capybara, right? They're actually pretty chill around humans, and there's something in their evolution or their environment that causes them to be more chill about humans, and there's like maybe like you could describe or scientifically analyze how that happens, right?
Sure.
I feel like because we get these varying levels of hostility and friendliness to humanity with these Bigfoot, like, has anybody ever tried to be like, how can we analyze and describe why one type of Bigfoot is more hostile than another? Because mine would almost say, like, because on the one hand, like I said, there's the eye of the beholder thing where it's like this person who's like a Bigfoot hunter, they just sort of see it this way while the other person sees it that way. But then you could also say, I think you could maybe say that the hostility levels are maybe reflective of the environment they supposedly live in. To me, living in Arizona as a Bigfoot could be a really harsh, difficult thing if you're like, again, this is my 2-week experience at the worst possible time in Tucson, but I'm just saying, or like if you're out in the swamps in Florida, right? That seems like its own kind of harshness. So I don't know. This is purely me just riffing, but I wonder if anybody's done that work.
I would be curious because there are people who take a kind of, say a zoological or cryptozoological approach to cryptids in terms of like actually trying to treat them like animals and look at behaviors and sightings and stuff. But I don't know if people like...
I haven't read it much is I guess what I'm pointing out.
Yeah. I would be very
I assume
curious.
It has to be out there.
Like if you could, because you would have to take into account the full breadth of the sighting. And what I mean by that is any sort of behavior by the person who instigated the sighting were they doing anything antagonistic? What, like, because that's the thing that I think a lot of people that, like you were talking about, like it's an eye of the beholder, where if someone goes out there, trying to generate a response, they're going to be doing things that would draw attention and maybe ignite those territorial instincts if we're talking about them as animals. Whereas, like, if someone is just camping and not doing anything, overtly loud or ridiculous, then that's then that shows more of the temperament of the creature. You would have to find some way to kind of objectively quantify the sightings in terms of user stimulus versus output of the cryptid, and put that on like a scale to kind of weight these things against each other.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm looking for a non-cryptozoological discussion and like somebody who's doing more of a speculative biology thing, I'd be curious. I'm sure. I mean, I know we've run it, and we've talked about a lot of the big names in cryptozoology, like Lauren Coleman and stuff. But I don't feel like this is a perspective that's super common among the cryptozoologists. A lot of the times, it's just this is a catalog of accounts of the thing, and like my analysis of what this creature is, rather than just like what might the biological and environmental reality of this creature be? Like, if we assume it's real, like what might that be? I'd be curious to read something like that.
Hey, if anyone, our usual cry, if anyone has any resources pointing towards things like that we talk about and news about, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Okay.
It's just like, I'm just sorry. It's like occurring to me that so much like quote unquote Bigfoot, like on the ground research is just like going out in the woods and like making hooping noises and throwing rocks around. Like, that's,
you're either like, you can do one of two things. You can either do that, or you can be the person who goes around and interviews all the yahoos who did that.
Sure,
and catalog it. And those are fair, the two main roles.
We are one of the yahoos. We are the yahoos who have interviewed somebody about that.
Yeah, so it's true. Like we're
not that
I'm too.
I enjoy it, but it's also like I would love to hear more perspectives on it.
Yeah. Get some real biology going. Okay. So this creature spends a lot of time in the ponderosa pine forests of the Mogollon Rim, at about 2,000 feet elevation, and it's most notably found in places like Woods Canyon Lake, Christopher Creek areas. Reports have also come out in the Tonto Natural Bridge State Park area, specifically around the creek system. So it seems to have a lot of sightings around running water, and also in a national park. So just a little fun thing to think about there.
No, that's interesting. It sounds like it might have some crossover with that fucking guy David Paulides in Missing 411, which we haven't talked about that in forever, but that was a recurring theme, was the running water disappearances in parks.
Yeah, so you gotta wonder, is the Mogollon Monster
responsible for a missing 411 case?
Yeah, how many missing 411 cases have happened along the Mogollon Rim? Point. I might have to look into that, because that's legitimately, I find the crossover between whatever there happens to be of crossover between missing 411 and Bigfoot is an area that I would be very curious about.
And this is, I think maybe it was Garrett who was telling me this, where David Paulides, first of all, I follow him on social media, and he sucks, but I follow him.
It's hard to follow people in this world on social media.
Some of them, he's just so lame. But apparently, talking to, I think Garrett, it was Garrett who was telling me, like, he is very cagey about giving a definitive answer of what he thinks is the thing causing disappearances in these national parks, but he almost definitely believes it's Bigfoot.
Yeah. Okay. So that is part of it. I do like that, because like the missing 411 thing is such a perfect nugget of like Okay, this is kind of weirdly like statistically this does feel a little weird, and I would love to look into what's happening here. But then it's like getting to the end of the documentary and all of a sudden they start talking about the Illuminati. And instead it's you get to the end of this weird kind of mystery in national parks, and it's Bigfoot. Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know if I believe you. Oh man. So let's get into some encounters with the Mogollon Monster. That's why we're all here. A lot of these come from a book by a woman named Susan A. Farnsworth called The Mogollon Monster, Arizona's Bigfoot, along with other ones were chronicled in Weird Arizona, which those books come up so much when you're looking up cryptids. Know.
Sometimes I feel like I need to have a copy of each state's weird book.
Yeah, or like maybe just you could probably narrow it down to, you need one for West Virginia.
West Virginia, 100%.
You need one for like Ohio.
Indiana's actually pretty good. Yeah. And I've seen that. I've almost bought that book in the store, but every time I go to the store I see that book, I'm like, there's like 5 million copies of this, and it's in every bookstore in the state. Like I never.
You can buy that shit in the airport. Like it's so I feel like I do underplay it because I end up seeing it cited like every time I do, not every time, but 60% of the time I do a cryptid episode. So maybe I gotta give some love because Chris Gethard wrote for Weird New Jersey. Like,
oh really?
They have weird guys. They have funny. Like interesting people involved. Like it should be whatever. Anyway, I'm really tangenty today. I apologize, everybody.
I don't think we ever have to apologize for the tangents.
Yeah,
Niall.
So
I think everybody's here for me to lead you on a 15-minute long discussion of why I'm being groomed to become Mark Maron.
It's true. Which I love that the main thing that you feel is drawing you down that path is effectively the facial hair you chose to grow.
Well, okay, look. Here's what actually happened with that, just so you know. I'm going to drop the kayfabe for a second.
Okay.
I started shaving, and then I got to this part, and I was like, oh, which this is the little under the lip thing.
Yeah, the soul patch.
The soul patch. And I was like, what happens if I leave that? Because I've never done that before. And so I left it. But you can't see.
Pretty good.
I also have I have some sideburn action going on here. So I've got the sideburns, the mustache, and the soul patch. I look like, I don't know. I look like I belong in some sort of 90s like alt rock band now, or Mark Maron.
What's funny is the way I was going to describe you as you were talking was if you were to try to make both Mark Maron and Kyle on the Wii Amiibo Maker channel, they would end up looking very, very like almost the same. Like it's an Amiibo level kind of confluence here.
I have a very
They're not Amiibo.
Weird...
Sorry, what are those things called?
The me. Like a me? Yeah, like a me.
Yeah.
I have a very weird relationship with my facial hair where I just can't decide what I want to do with it, because if I let it grow in one way or another, I eventually get annoyed with it in one, like whether that's how it looks or how it feels, and then I just shave it off and I try something different. So here I am trying something different, can't decide whether I look fine like this or whether I look like a total douche. It could go either way. But I did decide, looking in the mirror the other day, I was washing my hands, looked up, and I thought for a second, oh, did I just see Mark Maron?
Yeah.
Maybe I should sort of manifest that, and one day I could be the WTF podcaster.
You felt like you needed to lock the gates immediately.
Yes. So,
the Mogollon Monster. You'll find two different things set up as the earliest encounter with this creature. The oldest thing you'll find, most likely, is a story of some cowboys in the 1880s who were come upon by a large hairy creature during a camping trip. There weren't a lot of details about this story, specifically where it was, specifically what year it was, how many cowboys, etc. But that is like, that level of detail is what you generally get as the oldest. But then there's the oldest documented sighting that actually has like names and dates and everything, and that's 1903. So that's the first sighting that I would say is like somewhat justifiable here because we have an actual source for it.
That's pretty old for... I mean, truth be told, we get a lot of Bigfoot sightings in the late 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still... 1903 still feels pretty early.
Yeah, like, especially for documented stuff. Like, you'll get... I feel like... Maybe I'm totally talking on my ass here, but I feel like the 1920s was, like... You got a lot more people writing about this shit, but that's... I don't know.
Well, wasn't the, like, really, really crazy story about the guy who lived with a family of Bigfoot? And, like, the Bigfoot family was, like... It was something about, like, they were trying to coerce him into having sex with the lady Bigfoot.
Yeah, there was an insinuation there. Yeah, it was... I did
that was
this
like
episode.
Late 1800s, right? His name was like Albert something or other. It was
Yes.
So that's like, to me, that's, first of all, it's documented insofar as somebody wrote the story down to have it travel all the way to today.
Yeah.
And it's such an absurd story. It just feels like something that you would expect to read in like 1985.
Man,
right? Like,
that was a
great
fun
story.
one.
That's a good one.
One of the best Bigfoot stories I've ever found, along with the Bigfoot War. You know?
Yeah, the Bigfoot. Yes. Which I believe that's where the what was it? The big Squatch ripping department or whatever.
Yeah.
I think of the guy who lived with the Bigfoot family often. That is maybe my favorite Sasquatch story ever.
It's so good.
It's really good.
And like what was wild is when I was doing that episode, there were like, it just kept referring to like there's two other cases where someone got abducted by Bigfoot, and I think those are I should go back to those because those are really fun. Anytime like, because like a lot of people see a cryptid in the distance, it maybe charges at them. You get people swiping at cars, that kind of shit, but kidnapped by a cryptid to go taken to a second location is rare.
And then one of the Bigfoot starts, showing up in the doorway, leaning on the doorway while wearing lingerie.
Yeah.
Because they want to try and get this guy to...
and the way that you escape, if I remember correctly, is basically encouraging the Bigfoot to eat a bunch of tobacco to make its tummy hurt.
Oh, yeah.
So then it's incapacitated and you can leave.
They tried the old tobacco tummy ache maneuver. Yeah, I forgot. Although I gotta say, you said that there were some cowboys involved with this particular Bigfoot in Arizona, and I gotta say, that is an incredible concept to me because my imagination is running wild. I am picturing high noon showdowns with on one end you got a cowboy and on the other end you just have a straight up Sasquatch.
Yeah,
I mean that's perfect.
It's such a wonderful image. I wish there was like a full account of it. It's in all, like, you see that come up in all those articles where it's like
just gets mentioned,
a page total,
and
the accounts is like a paragraph, and so it's like the earliest sighting of some cowboys, and then here's the actual named sightings that happen later. So I would love to find more, like, I should really try to do, maybe that's a new way to do this. I try to do a cowboy cryptid encounters episode. That would be fun.
Yeah, cowboys would be... Okay, we know lumberjacks had their own sort of cryptozoological critter thing going on.
Yeah, the fearsome critters, yep.
You would have to assume cowboys would have some crossover there.
I mean...
or maybe with the paranormal, too. It just seems like a good idea.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know whether it happened,
I'm pretty sure there were some cowboy sightings with thunderbirds that I talked about forever ago.
Yeah.
In the kind of cryptozoological form. But so okay. First sighting that I would consider, fleshed out. Comes from 1903. A person named I.W. Stevens told this to the Arizona Republican newspaper that he had come across an unknown creature near the Grand Canyon. Stevens describes the creature, which he called the, quote, wild man of the rocks, as having long and matted white hair on its head and a long white matted beard that grew down to its knees. It also seemed to have gray hair covering a majority of its body, and he came upon it while he was surveying a recently killed cougar and trying to eat meat off the dead animal. So Yeah. So this thing was sitting there. Sorry, for a second I was like, no, Stevens is not the one eating the meat from the dead animal. It's the
wild
the
man.
Mogollon Monster, of course. And so Stevens said that he came upon it very quietly. He was doing a lot to try to not make noise, but the creature became aware of his presence and quickly turned around, locked eyes with Stevens, and let out the, quote, wildest, most unearthly screech you could imagine. This caused Stevens to run off out of the canyon and head for the safety of home. So he came upon this thing eating, which it's also white hair with like a beard and stuff, so it doesn't quite match the rest of the accounts.
I was about to say, because I feel like that if I were to guess the date range here, between like 1880 and 1920, within that range, there are a handful of encounters that usually the person reporting it, if it gets reported, refers to a quote-unquote wild man. Yeah. Like I remember there was one we were talking about that had a wild man who was living in a cave, and I have to wonder if these were actually straight up wild men who then, once the Bigfoot legend came about, got reincorporated back into the mythology there, because I could totally see a person being absolutely bewildered when an older gray-haired man who hadn't shaved in like 2 years, who was out living in the wilderness, you encounter that and it could be crazy, maybe.
Especially standing over a corpse and like eating meat off of it. Like this is a thing that I also find that I'm kind of intrigued by, is in a lot of cases when I'm looking up cryptid stuff, early accounts aren't always the defining visage of the creature. Like, you get a lot more specificity of what people find as you get closer and closer to modern day. And you have to wonder if that's because the other sightings are out there and it kind of compounds on itself until there's a consensus, or, you know, if the people are just seeing different creatures and whatever. But it kind of goes to that where, like, maybe the original sighting of this thing wasn't the thing at all, and it was just a guy.
Just a guy, yeah.
And then over time, it
guy.
led to this idea that there was this creature out there, and it caused people to see this Bigfoot thing as the idea of Bigfoot became more known. It's totally possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where the kind of modern idea of this creature really started is in the 1920s, when two prospectors hiked into the area of the Pope Springs to look for gold. And in the middle of the night, a large beast came into their campsite and carried off their 450-pound burro. So it just, like, straight up picked up and carried off a 450-pound animal. The prospectors described the beast as a, quote, large, smelly, strange animal with a matted, coarse, and tangled hair coat. The creature walked on its hind legs and was at least 8 feet, but maybe up to 10 feet tall. The prospectors claimed the creature, quote, smelled like feces and urine and was agile on its hindquarters. They testified that the creature weighed between 400 to 800 pounds.
The poo-poo-pee-pee Bigfoot.
Yeah. So this has more of the hallmarks. It's you know, you've got the matted coat, you've got this thing coming in and just attacking stuff. You've got it smelling like shit and piss, and you know, like it's in the height range. The other one, the original sighting from 1903, doesn't really have a height listed.
No,
so.
Man, it's fucked up now that I think about it, because it's like the stink booger or whatever that guy was called, the smelly one from Florida,
skunk ape,
the skunk ape. You know, he's presumably accrued a smell from just living in the swamp. But this makes it sound like the thing has matted fur that it's pissing and shitting into, which is much, much worse.
Yeah.
Way worse.
Yeah, like, I like the variety, because it's always described, or at least in the ones that I found, described as smelling bad. But what they say it smells like does differ. But they're all really bad. Like, that one's piss and shit. You get dead fish with body odor was one of them, which I don't even know what the fuck that means, but it sounds bad. And then, what was the other one? There was, let's see here. Decaying peat moss. That's also a very different smell.
None of that sounds like it would smell good.
No. But here's where so the next sighting is probably second most referenced sighting of this thing, if not the most referenced. And it took place in, I believe, the 1940s. Yes, the sighting was in the mid 1940s, and the sighting was seen by a guy named Don Davis, who later in life became a cryptozoologist. So this is a guy that later developed an interest in this stuff, but at the time he was 13 years old and was out with his scout troop doing some camping. So supposedly, I looked into this guy a little bit. This supposedly was before his interest in cryptozoology. It's that story of like, you know, this ignite kind of is the weird thing in his past that he looks back to that kind of led him to the path, you know? So he was out camping with a scout troop, and this was near Tonto Creek, which is the national park that we were talking about earlier. When in the middle of the night, when something woke him up along with some of the other boys who were up kind of doing Boy Scout shit. So probably like telling dirty jokes around a campfire. Who knows? But it sounded like someone was rummaging around and going through everybody's things. There was just a lot of rustling and sounds of things moving around and being touched. Davis immediately thought that it was just another camper, one of his buddies out there playing a prank or something. So he shouted for the scout to stop and go back to bed. But supposedly, once he said this, the intruder from outside stopped and turned in the direction of Don Davis and actually approached him while he was in his sleeping bag, stopped above him, standing directly over his sleeping bag. And this led to Davis pulling the bag up over his head, trying to make the creature leave him alone. Eventually, the monster lost interests in the campsite and decided to go back into the wilderness. Davis was another one who reported a very strong and terrible odor, so this is his description that he gave. The creature was huge. Its eyes were deep set and hard to see, but they seemed expressionless. His face seemed pretty much devoid of hair, but there seemed to be hair along the sides of his face. His chest, shoulders, and arms were massive, especially the upper arms, easily upwards of 6 inches in diameter, perhaps much, much more. I could see he was pretty hairy, but didn't observe really how thick the body hair was. The face head was very square sides, and squared up chin like a box. So this one's interesting to me because the one thing that I see everywhere else is like this elongated face.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Don Davis is just like, it's got a fucking blockhead, straight up square. Like, and of course, like, that what one person reads a person's face as versus another person, it can vary, whatever. But it's interesting to me when the details that are specific to a cryptid then aren't in all the sightings, you know?
Yeah, it's also so vague. Like, it's vague enough that I'm just like, are we sure this wasn't just another big, creepy dude?
Yeah.
You know? But, yeah, that is weird that stands out. Because, like, again, these are early sightings. I'm assuming there are later sightings where the elongated face is a more common feature. But
yeah, it seems like... so the next sightings in 1960, and you start to get, you know, a lot more just kind of standard Bigfoot sightings. Like, the next one is a guy named Fred Ohlenberger who was driving through the Mogollon Rim, and the creature was just in the middle of the road, and he actually stopped and got out of his car and like went to go investigate, and it ran away into the woods, which that also doesn't track with the specific, like, you would think that this creature would fucking throw hands with Fred by the description we've had so far, because it's been very aggressive. And so a lot of the sightings going forward turn into just kind of, you know, Bigfoot sightings, you know?
Yeah. None of them, like, I guess I don't get where the aggressive thing comes from, because none of this sounds aggressive to me. Like, I mean, I guess it's intimidating to have a Bigfoot come and stand over you while you're camping, but that's not necessarily an aggressive maneuver. That could just be a curious Bigfoot wondering what it's looking at, you know? Like,
It really, that one seems to really come from the 1920s case where it like came into the campsite and just picked up a 450-pound creature and ran off with it.
Sure.
Along with like the screaming in the other one, like it, which this was kind of my point where like, I don't know if the sightings really play out that this thing is more aggressive than other Bigfoot, because literally the next sighting in 1968 is campers, and the creature circles their campground hurling rocks and pine cones, that's straight up just Bigfoot right there. That's just what Bigfoot does.
He does just toss stuff.
Yeah. And then, you know, a Forest Services employee saw the creature in 1974 when marking trees, and said that the creature was able to effortlessly break a tree with a diameter of 4 inches. But when local rangers conducted an informal investigation, they found no proof of this.
Okay, can I get one, like, Bigfoot is chasing me down. The Arizona Bigfoot is just hauling ass trying to catch me in the woods. Or like, I got socked in the fucking face by Bigfoot. Bigfoot just clobbered my head one time. Like, I'm not, none of this is all... Yeah, I want to hear about the aggressive Bigfoot. None of this feels particularly abnormal for Bigfoot.
Yeah, like there really aren't a lot of super aggressive sightings. Like here's one from 2014. A 28-year-old woman was hiking through the Canyon Point Trail when she came across an extremely odd-looking creature on its knees drinking water. She was curious what this creature was, and she decided to try to take a photo of it. When she reached into her bag to grab her camera, the creature quickly turned its head in her direction and stared directly at her. Now, she became extremely frightened by this, and she began to try to scare the creature off, waving her arms and yelling as loud as she could. The creature then stood up on its two legs and took off running into the canyon. Like, it's... all of these things are just... The Bigfoot is curious about something.
Yeah.
And the human gets so scared about it that, like, they freak out. You know?
Yeah, and especially with the, I don't know if this is a good word, but trope of Bigfoot throwing small objects like pebbles and rocks and things at people, or in their direction, doesn't fully read as totally aggressive either. Like, actively, it still almost reads as, like, curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Bigfoot doesn't know what it's dealing with, so it's like throwing stuff in the direction to see what happens. I guess, again, this does depend on, because, like, I have watched videos of, like, Bigfoot hunters who are just like, you know, Bigfoot's fucking attacking us and they're chucking stones from the darkness of the woods or whatever, but a lot of the times the Bigfoot throwing Bigfoot throwing pine cones, it just doesn't feel... It feels very typical Bigfoot. I think that I'm going to have to go ahead and say they got to rewrite the cryptid wikis on this one. This Bigfoot's not aggressive. It's just kind of doing the thing you'd expect.
Yeah, it doesn't seem particularly aggressive. So this really is just the defining thing of this one is that it stinks like shit.
Yeah,
and
it's a different kind of stinking like shit than typical. That's its main differentiating factor.
Yeah, it really is. Like there's I found this place that was trying to compare it to Bigfoot and talk about the stated differences, and literally the few key differences it notes are that people often describe the Mogollon Monster as noticeably more aggressive and territorial than Bigfoot, a shy solitary species that avoids human interaction. Witnesses often report direct encounters, describing the creature aggressively attacking campsites and hurling objects at people, actions rarely attributed to Bigfoot. Wrong. And physical descriptions also diverge significantly, with Bigfoot often reported with ape-like characteristics in contrast to the Mogollon Monster's more human-like visage. I think that's splitting some hairs, you know? Like,
yeah.
So, and I have no problem with this just being another Bigfoot. Like, I like the Bigfoot mythos. I like the behavior. I like the stories of people coming across something weird in the woods and it kind of throws shit at them and it's scary and everyone goes, ooh, you know, it's fun. I like it.
Yeah.
It's interesting how much people try to parse things down to these like really specific things where like it's not, you're really splitting hairs, and I think it would be more interesting to look at them as regional variations of the same thing, and then you can try to like actually compare them and contrast them in a realistic manner, instead of trying to make everything super special to your place. But
sure, yeah.
So anyway, that went off in kind of a weird way, but I think it's interesting. Like I'm scratching around something with doing a lot of these cryptid episodes where there's so many commonalities that I feel like there should be some I feel like you could learn a lot from cataloging a lot of things and just trying to like make like by finding data, you know, and like looking at these things in a kind of holistic way where you're just comparing as objective of the store accounts as possible, and come to some sort of conclusion. I don't know. It's I think it's interesting, and I would love for people to take that more intensely.
I mean, my main takeaway from this episode is I really got to see if I can find a good data set of Bigfoot sightings from like mid 1800s to like early 1900s and see how many times the term wild man gets used and what the descriptions are for each one, because I have a feeling that we're going to run into some actual just straight up
feral
men.
People. Yeah. Like it would be an interesting thing to like try to, because that's what you could do if you could compare all these things in an easier way is find these commonalities in eras and stuff. Cause like a lot of these things are just going to end up being people seeing something wrong, and their brain kind of auto-completing it and making something out of it in their memory. So how that changes throughout time is an interesting reflection of the cultural fucking view of the time period. Because
it's the same with UFOs.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like we've started to do this with UFOs in a way that we haven't with like Bigfoot, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's definitely a thing that pops up, but maybe it's worth reanalyzing some of these stories and probably the paranormal too, but with that idea that they're reflections of the, you know, world that's around them.
Yeah.
So
to kind of wrap this episode up, I want to quickly talk about the Mogollon Monster 100, just because this sounds awful, and it's named after this creature, so I think it's worth mentioning. So this is directly from there's a Mogollon Monster website that gave me some starting information about the creature while also describing this 100-mile race through a fucking mountain range. So the Mogollon Monster 100 is a rugged, challenging trail race taking place about 90 minutes northeast of Phoenix, Arizona, just outside the small town of Pine. It includes an advanced degree endurance race of 100 miles, with the addition of a 42-kilometer race on Sunday. The races navigate up, down, around, and through a beautiful Mogollon Rim, which rises 2,000 feet for over a span of 200 miles across Arizona and New Mexico, defining much of the eastern part of the state. The rim takes the race from elevations of 5,300 feet at the start to upwards of 8,000 feet at the top of the rim, changing ecosystems along the way, and distinct flora changes as the elevation changes switch the scenery from high Sonoran desert to the largest contiguous ponderosa pine forests in the world. So this is all to build up to my big question for you, Kyle.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
You ready?
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you had to choose, would you rather have an aggressive altercation with the Mogollon Monster or run the Mogollon Monster 100?
Do I have a time limit on the Mogollon Monster 100?
I mean, I think they
like, is somebody gonna?
It's an event, so like I think that you at some point they would break down, you know.
Right.
They would would pull the finishing race down, the finishing line down, and like the banner and shit, you know.
Sure, but if I just completely fail, I'm okay with failing running 100 miles in a mountain range. I think I can handle that kind of failure because I don't want to do it. Look, that area is probably very beautiful. But if you hear what Niall just described and you think to yourself, I've got to run that, I think you're an insane person. I mean, Godspeed, to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, I don't want to be beaten to death by a stinky Bigfoot who's pissing and shitting himself, Like, that doesn't sound like a good time to me.
Yeah.
A 100-mile run in the mountains, like, if I did that, first of all, I would fail very quickly. Yeah. And that's okay with me. Second of all, it probably would be like really beautiful. So I can just fail and be like, whatever, I go home now. Unless of course you didn't say anything like, if you fail to complete the 100 miles, they execute you.
No, it just, like, you do have to do the whole race. Like, you can take as long as you want, but you're there until you're done. So.
Oh God. Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. On the other hand, having a violent encounter, an aggressive encounter. You said aggressive, not violent.
Yeah, because I couldn't find, like, they say it's aggressive and territorial. I could not find it actually harming a human being.
That's sort of why I'm thinking maybe it's actually totally fine to have that encounter, because it doesn't seem like it would actually harm me. Maybe I would just get spooked. And I guess here's the other thing. Actually, I've changed my mind. I want to have the aggressive encounter with the Mogollon Monster, because then I will get to witness a Bigfoot.
True. Yeah.
And it won't harm me, as we have established, because it is actually non-violent.
See,
barely even aggressive.
This was kind of my read on it as well, where you know those how there's a difference in haunted houses between the ones where you have to sign a waiver and they can touch you, or the ones that they can't touch you.
Yeah.
Like, if you know that this thing's not going to actually, like, harm you and touch you, then I could put up with the aggressive territoriality, and hey, it can throw a pine cone at me. That's fine.
I'll get hit with a pine cone.
And so I think this is kind of it's one of those things that if I had looked at this question before I did the research and, like, read the accounts and everything, I might have gone the way you were going of the race. But the more I looked into it, the more I kind of thought about the reality of these sightings, I don't think this thing's going to hurt me. I think that it just is curious and kind of confused why you're on its territory. And I can deal with that. Like, it's going to suck. I don't like it. I'm going to be scared because this thing's like 10 feet tall and stinks to high heaven. But I don't think I'm going to get injured. Whereas I probably will get injured doing a 100-mile race on top of a mountain,
Yeah. Bigfoot is fraider than you're fraider of the Bigfoot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I guess then we can experience the Mogollon Monster together and have a terrifying night camping out in the Arizona wilderness. I think the actual, like, biggest negative of that encounter is that it's going to probably smell really bad.
Yeah, it is, like, and maybe there's a side thing where we can't use, like, nose protection or whatever. You can't, like, have a nose clip
I can
on
handle.
or
I might throw up, but I can handle it.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, the 100-mile race would also make me throw up.
Yeah, I think I would throw up more times in the 100-mile race than I would from being subjected to a stinky thing for a night,
Yeah. Also, by the way, Niall.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioned this, and this is such a random thing to end on.
Sure.
But you mentioned the haunted houses where they can touch you.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear about McCamey Manor?
Oh, yes, I am well aware of McCamey Manor.
I remember reading some shit online years ago to the point where I almost brought it on the podcast, but never did.
Yeah.
And I'd have to go. I don't know if there's any. This is all alleged and things that I saw people online saying. But I remember reading this conspiracy about how that guy would videotape people going into the house and had a private room where where he has, like, people who are, like, maybe sort of investors in the McCamey Manor who get to watch the videotapes.
Jesus.
I have no idea if that's true, and it sounds insane, but I didn't look more into that, and that was so long ago. I'd have to look into it again. But for those of you out there, McCamey, I don't think it's around anymore. I think he did get into some sort of legal trouble.
I think they did. There was a TikTok account that I was following for a while that was, like, going hard on them investigating and like actually signed up for it and went through it and like recorded it and stuff.
No.
And it was it like, and they showed that the whole thing is basically they just try to torture you until you crack. And it was the thing.
Yeah,
and
just so if people don't know out there, McCamey Manor was this like big ass haunted house experience, but you have to sign a waiver, and they actually just straight up
and like an
put you
NDA,
through torture.
right?
Yeah, an NDA. They put you through straight up torture, which again, I don't know. That's a weird story. You couldn't pay me to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I like horror, but fuck that. Yeah, maybe I'll see. Maybe if I can find something about that could be interesting.
Spooky season's coming up.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll look into some fucking just real life weird shit. Yeah. Ooh. So this has been tapping back into a regional Bigfoot.
We love Bigfoot here.
We do love Bigfoot, and like I do think this episode came off kind of like I'm not actually mad at the Mogollon Monster for the stories being. I just think it's weird that they try to separate it from Bigfoot in the ways they do, because it feels like a stinky Bigfoot in the mountains, you know.
It's true. It's just a stinky Bigfoot. Again, I still have a headcanon of a Bigfoot who cakes himself with desert dirt to, protect himself from the element. Like, I just automatically like to incorporate like what I actually know about real biology into my cryptids. So, that's what I imagine. And maybe there's a Bigfoot out there like that we just haven't discovered or we haven't seen the stories for yet. So.
We got to enter the Bigfoot multiverse for that one.
Oh God. Oh, boy.
All right.
The Dark Universe.
Funnily enough, I watched The Mummy from the Dark Universe last weekend.
Oh, the one where they fucked up the trailer and didn't have all the audio in it?
Yeah, the trailer is better than the movie. I wish that movie was fun. Somehow it's not. What
a surprise.
It not good. That should have been so much more fun than it was. Anyway. That's a whole other fucking tangent for World of Weird,
podcast.
I guess. So let's go ahead and take care of some business, Kyle.
Yeah.
If you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're almost certainly there.
I gotta be honest with you, we don't use Facebook and Twitter as often as we used to. No. We are on Blue Sky now. Social media is a terrible place to be these days, but we're available on all those places. We're on Blue Sky at It Gets Weird. So give us a follow there. I should say though, I do still check the Twitter and the Blue Sky. Facebook, it's a soul-sucking website, so I'm not there as often, but we do have one. So go ahead and check us out. Give us a follow. Twitch.tv/itgetsweird. I just got back into the Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke with Colin, and that's been really fun. We just fought Koga and Sabrina, so we beat the latest 2 gyms, and now I think we've got 2 more gyms. We've got Blaine and Giovanni, and then we're going up against the Elite Four. So hey, check it out. It's been pretty fucking great. And give us a follow on Twitch. Now, you can also email us, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up with a story. We've got actually a couple emails that we're getting ready to read in upcoming episodes. So thank you for sending those. And if you have your own story or thoughts or good resources to point us towards, send it on over, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up. Just let us know how we should address you, and we might read your stuff out on the show. It's a fun time getting emails from folks out there, and we've had a lot of really good ones over the years. So thank you very much. Yeah. If you really want to support us, though, and I know you do, check out patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $1 tier, a $2 tier, and a $5 tier. The $1 tier is the tip tier. You're just saying, hey, here's $1. Thanks for doing what you do. You don't get anything out of it. It's just a tip. But if you want bonus content for just $1 more, you have the $2 tier. You're going to get It Gets Weird TV. Comes out every other week where Niall and I talk about weird television. Right now we're in season 3 of The X-Files. It's fucking great. I love The X-Files. Niall loves The X-Files. We're having a great time talking about it. Some of the best episodes in this season. So now's a great time to get on that $2 tier. But if you want the most bang for your buck, we also have a $5 tier where you're going to get another bonus show in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV called World of Weird, where Niall and I talk about whatever we want. Usually that's movies, music, and just stuff that doesn't make it onto the main feed too. We just talk about whatever we want, and we have a good time, and it's a great show. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday on your own private Patreon feed, and you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out chatting with the listeners of the show, just like you listening right now. It's a great time, so check out patreon.com/itgetsweird. If you can't donate, though, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
It's impressive you do all that. So, thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out. Peace.